In this video, we're going to take a quick look at measuring motor winding resistance. And once again, this is a critical thing to know because it tells us the condition of our motor. And in the previous video, we mentioned that in terms of resistance, there's no such thing as perfect zero resistance. And so it is with the winding inside an electrical motor. So in this case, what we have here is a Franklin Electric 4-inch submersible motor. The rating on this motor is 230 volts, and it's a half horsepower motor. So the first thing we have to know is what winding resistance would we expect to see in this motor? And there are a couple ways to get that information. We can use the Franklin Electric Aim manual. Page 13 will tell us what that number should be. But an even better solution is to use the Aim manual app, which is what I've just done. And what it's told me in this case, for this motor, we expect a winding resistance for this motor of somewhere between 4.2 and 5.2 ohms. Okay? If we're outside of that range, there is something damaged in this motor. So what I've done is, this happens to be a 2-wire motor, so I've attached my ohm meter, in this case, to the two black leads, the L1 and L2 of this motor. And what I'm using for this is the DMEG 3. And if I could only have one instrument, if you took me out to an installation and said you can only have one instrument, you can't have a voltmeter, you can't have an ammeter, but you can have a DMEG 3, this is exactly what I would have, because it's really useful in determining the condition of an installation. What we're doing in this case is that we have to turn the DMEG on, and I'm in the green section here measuring resistance or ohms. And the other thing you have to do with the DMEG 3 is it's got a push button here. When we're measuring megs, when we're using this as a meg ohm meter, we want to use this. Since we're on the ohm setting, we can actually just push this down and lock it in. And the number I said we were looking for was somewhere between 4.2 and 5.2. The winding resistance that I'm getting here is 4.61. So we're right in there. Normally, you're not going to have, in a lot of cases, you aren't going to have the motor above ground like this. But what you can do is you can measure this resistance at the pressure switch. You can measure it at the control box, that type of thing. If you've got a long drop cable, you may need to add a little bit of resistance to this to get the correct reading, okay? But once again, we tell you what that should be in the Aim manual. So what we've determined here is that from an electrical standpoint, we've got a good motor here, which is a great piece of information to know.